So, the figure we'll be talking about today is the most powerful and successful Norwegian of all time, politically speaking, and a leader whose influence transcends the confines of borders and formal titles. Jens Stoltenberg, the unanointed King of Norway, has quietly established himself as one of the most powerful individuals on the global stage. Until 2022, due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, you had likely never heard of the guy, but that's when he seemed to burst onto the global media scene. Yet his journey has been a long and trying one. From his early days in Oslo to the halls of NATO, and through his associations with elite organizations like Bilderberg Group and the Security Conference in Munich, Stoltenberg's story is one of power, diplomacy, and resilience. But who is the man behind this humble exterior? And what shaped his journey to becoming a statesman of unparalleled influence? Well, let's take a look. Stoltenberg was the Prime Minister of Norway when I was a kid, and I remember thinking he seemed like an impressive man. He wasn't flamboyant or particularly charismatic, but very capable. I think most Norwegians hold a very deep respect for the man, particularly for one reason that I'll get into a little bit later. But I remember reading his autobiography when I was 15 years old, and I remember being very impressed by his resilience. He sort of exudes a calm, like a Nordic stoicism, but that bellies the immense power that he really wields. He appears very humble, which is probably ingrained in him through sort of Norwegian customs, janteloven, as we call it in Norway. But how humble he really is, and how big or small his ego really is, that's difficult to say. But what I will say is that a person who doesn't have a near delusional belief in himself wouldn't seek out a position like Prime Minister or Secretary General of NATO. So to attempt to understand Stoltenberg's personality, you have to consider the traits that define him, which are sort of humility, pragmatism, and a commitment to multilateralism. And these are traits that aren't just byproducts of his upbringing, but they're sort of foundational for his leadership, and they're a big part of why he's become the respected figure, I think, that he is today. And he's also a kind of leader that doesn't seem to seek the spotlight, but it seems to follow him wherever he goes, and in every interview, speech, or sort of televised or recorded diplomatic negotiation, he appears to demonstrate an ability to navigate complexity with at least relative grace. What's most striking to me is how he managed to spring out of little Norway into immensely influential leadership positions, international leadership positions with global responsibilities. Jens Stoltenberg was born the 16th of March 1959 into a family steeped in politics and public service. His father, Thorvald Stoltenberg, was a prominent politician and diplomat and served as Norway's foreign minister, and his mother, Karin Stoltenberg, was also politically active. She served at some point as a state secretary, and she was a strong advocate for gender equality. And growing up in such a politically engaged household, it's no surprise that he developed an interest in governance and public service. But his childhood was not without its challenges, as this was Norway during the 60s, and he was sort of exposed to both privileges and responsibilities that came with his family's status. It's interesting to note that when Jens was young, he wasn't this reserved, measured person that we sort of see him as today, but he was known to be very curious, energetic, and rebellious, qualities that I'm sure would help him later in his political career. Stoltenberg's transition into adulthood marked the beginning of his political journey. He studied economics at the University of Oslo, where he became involved with student activism. And it was during this time that he began to embrace ideals such as social democracy, which is an ideal that he still appears to hold dearly, something he mentioned in a recent interview with Nicolai Tangen, and that this is sort of a philosophy that has been a guide for him throughout his career. And as a young man, he joined the Labour Party, sort of left-leaning party in Norway, and a political organization that had long ties with advocating for worker rights and social justice in Norway. His early speeches and writings sort of reveal a man that was committed to equality and progress, but also willing to engage in pragmatic compromises to achieve his goals. And he's a man known for calling compromises beautiful compromises, because he believed that oftentimes a combination of different viewpoints are a better solution than a one-sided one, which is not such a bad point of view. And by the time he graduated, it was pretty clear that Jens was just not another ambitious young politician, but he could go far. He had intellect, grit, and strategic thinking needed to make a real impact. And of course, that's exactly what he did. His rise through the ranks of Norwegian politics was nothing short of a miracle. He was elected to parliament at the age of 30 and quickly became a key figure in the Labour Party. And over the years, he held several positions, including Minister of Energy and Trade from 93 to 96, then the Minister of Finance from 96 to 97. Then in 2000, he was elected Prime Minister of Norway. And his initial term was rather brief, but then he returned to power in 2005, serving until 2013. And it was during this period that Stoltenberg's government implemented significant reforms in education, healthcare, and social welfare. However, his administration, they faced a little bit of criticism due to some environmental policies and also some privatization efforts, which was perhaps not that much in line with the ideology of a left-leaning party. But the most defining moment as a prime minister came during his second term, and that is following the tragic events of a terrorist attack in Norway, July 2020 or 2011. And that's when I think Jens Stoltenberg, calm and compassionate heart, sort of shined through to the Norwegian people, and he was considered, he sort of gained widespread admiration for the way that he handled this horrible crisis that occurred in Norway. And I think his emphasis on unity, empathy, and democracy in the face of the hatred became a rallying cry for the whole nation. Then in 2014, Jens Stoltenberg was appointed Secretary General of NATO, a role that placed him at the center of global security and diplomacy. And as the head of this 32-member alliance, Stoltenberg had to navigate a rapidly changing geopolitical situation, including rising tensions with Russia, the invasion of Ukraine, and the challenges posed by emerging technologies. His tenure at NATO was marked by a focus on strengthening alliance deterrence, defense capabilities, and he also emphasized the importance of unity among neighbor states, even as there was internal divisions that threatened to weaken the organization. And under his leadership, NATO adapted to a 21st century of threats from cybersecurity to hybrid warfare, and his ability to maintain cohesion within the alliance while addressing the challenges appears to have been a testament to his diplomatic skills. Although Stoltenberg recently stepped down as Secretary General of NATO, being the second longest serving leader, his influence didn't stop there. It was relatively recently announced that he would become the next chairman of the Munich Security Conference, which is a key forum for international security policy and diplomacy. Additionally, he is set to co-chair the Bilderberg Group, which is this exclusive gathering of political and business elites. And these roles highlight Stoltenberg's unique position as a trusted figure in global affairs. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I have to say that I'm no big fan of an organization like the Bilderberg Group, as it's not obvious to me at all that they contribute positively to the vast majority of people. But putting that aside, it's clear that Stoltenberg's leadership in these forums underscores his ability to shape narratives, discussions, and policies on a global stage. Jens Stoltenberg's journey from a young boy in the streets of Norway's little capital to one of the most influential leaders in the world is a testament to his vision, resilience, and his appetite for influence. Whether he's governing Norway, leading NATO, or shaping discussions at elite gatherings, Stoltenberg's impact is undeniable. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this exploration of Norway's unanointed king, namely Jens Stoltenberg, looking at his life and legacy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments down below.